much cargo's in there.
Anything I haven't seen before.
Created a monster.
You gotta do it. You gotta get it. You gotta want it. You gotta be it.
A whole day's worth of trading gone.
Here we are. We did it.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Guys, I get to see you in my house. Hooray.
Well, no, we're not in your. Well, I mean, I guess you get to see us while you are in your house. Yes, that's true.
You picked it up,
Yeah.
fastball.
Thanks.
Stuart, I hope you're
That's
not
my fastball special.
Stuart, I hope you're not upset about me dominating you in arm wrestling just then.
That only happened a few moments ago. So,
We changed our clothes.
yeah. Changed. I had to take those off. They were covered in my blood.
Yeah, we went to different locations and now we're here.
Yeah.
Which is what?
And what do we do on this show, Elliot?
Well, I'm happy to tell you that usually on the Flophouse podcast, we watch a bad movie and then we talk about it and you just hear it through your ears. But here on FlopTV, through the magic of the internet, thank you, Al Gore, you can see us with your eyes and hear us with your ears. It's a duet of pleasure. Someday, taste, but we're not there yet.
We haven't discussed this.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're very lickable.
Mhm.
We're also working on our line of signature scents, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, mine's going to be the nickel. So Dan, get us a sense plan words.
Oh,
So,
sure.
So Dan, why don't you
Fun.
today we're going to be talking about the movie Over the Top, but Dan, why don't you take the audience through the order of events? What's our agenda?
Okay, well, so much like a live show but shorter, we have in this case one presentation coming from Mr. Elliot Kalin on topic to be determined by watching him in a moment. We don't know what it is.
I was hoping you guys would be able to tell me
Oh God.
what it was going to be.
And then we're going to talk about Over the Top, starring one Sylvester Stallone. And later on, we'll answer a couple of questions from people who are watching. There's a little window, a Q&A window, where you can ask questions to possibly be answered later. Not in the chat, in the Q&A window.
Yeah.
And I guess
Don't ask questions in the chat. They will go unanswered. They will be ignored. We'll throw them out with the garbage. Put them in the Q&A window.
That's right. But Elliot, I guess, should you just take over?
Take it away, buddy.
I will take over. I'm going to be sharing my screen. Do you see the poster for the great film Over the Top? Starring, as Dan said, one Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, I see his giant arm coming at me.
It looks like he's sweeping that car into the truck with such force that it's smashing it.
I like the variation of the poster where he has the arm warmer over the elbow. It's
Yeah.
like battle damage He-Man figures.
Yeah, he had a cold elbow that day. Well, guys, tonight we're talking about the movie Over the Top, which has spent 30 years on top of Sight and Sound's illustrious greatest films of all time list. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I misread that. I meant Sight and Sound's greatest arm wrestling films of all time list. So you see it right there. The critics, the directors, they vote on this. Let's see what movie critic Armand White voted for.
Oh, great.
My Left Foot? Come on. Even though your name has arm in it? Oh, Armand White, always the contrarian, even for the arm wrestling movies. Now, arm wrestling is both the muse and subject of Over the Top. And that means it's time to look at the unsung hero of the film, the human arm. It's the one thing you can't arm wrestle without. It's why the Venus de Milo is consistently last in the World Arm Wrestling Championship rankings. Nice try, Vini. Better luck next year. But wrestling is just one of the I gotta take that, Venus de Milo. Wrestling is just one of the many amazing things you can do with arms. Throwing, hugging, stirring, jerking. Arms can do all that and so much more. But where do they come from? And where are they going? It's time to get up in arms about arms with a special Flophouse presentation, Front Limbs Forever, a salute to arms. Okay, now it's time for part one. Dawn
I
of
think
the
you
Planet
somewhere
of
along the line, I
Arms.
think you resized your window so that it's cutting off some stuff.
I thought that
Sorry, can you see?
Yeah, that's better. There you
go. Okay, that's better. Sorry about that. Look, I'm working on a very small screen here. Should I go back to the part you missed?
No. I understood
Dan,
everything perfectly up until
do you want me to go back and redo it?
No, that's fine.
All right, I just wasn't sure. Okay. Okay, part one. So let me just show you again. This is my presentation, Front Limbs Forever, a salute to arms. Part one, Dawn of the Planet of the Arms. Just where did arms come from? Is it possible that an appendage so useful could come about by random chance? What do we know about the history of the arm? Scientists would have us believe that our earliest four-limbed ancestor was the tetrapod fish that walked on dry land. As we can see from this image, this fish not only invented front limbs, but also the look of smug satisfaction possessed by every cover model for Cigar Aficionado magazine. That's right, this proto-fish was an asshole. Flash forward a few 100 million years, and we see dinosaurs have developed the first real arms. Though, as far as arms go, they're pretty unimpressive. Tyrannosaurus rex may have been the Cretaceous period's apex predator, but his arms were basically useless. He could never, for instance, grasp Whoopi Goldberg around the waist, no matter what the liberal media would tell you. Fake news, fake news, fake news. For Tyrannosaurus rex, arms were an underutilized asset. Paleontologists believe its arms were far too small to arm wrestle or masturbate with. And don't get me started on how better arms might have kept them from going extinct. That's the kind of thing you can do when you have real arms. Take a tennis racket, smack that asteroid away. But they couldn't do it. Unfortunately, dinosaurs went the other way and turned their potentially versatile arms into wings, which are only good for one thing. Nice job, dummies. You can't masturbate with those either. Anyway, eventually, mammals hit the scene to show the rest of the animal kingdom how the arm game is supposed to be played. Look at this boss. And that tail that's like an extra arm coming out of his butt. Why don't we still have those? Come on, those butt arms rock. Think about how useful it would be. No back itch would go unscratched. Perhaps someday, millions of years from now, this beautiful dream will be a reality. Well, let's look at some notable arms throughout history in part two, Hall of Arm. You know, no collection of famous arms would be complete without Michelle Obama. No matter what side of the political aisle you're on, you have to admit her arms are a national treasure. Literally, last year, President Biden named them an official national park to be preserved for future generations. They belong to the public now. Thank you for former First Lady Michelle Obama. Of course, while Michelle Obama is the epitome of natural arm growth, the X-Man Cable is a pioneer in robot arm technology. Some arm enthusiasts see this as cheating, but Cable isn't trying to replace human arms. He only wants to make them strong enough to support the shoulder pads of the future. Ooh, look at that advanced technology. It's going to take stronger arms to take care of those. And of course, no look at notable arms would be complete without this guy, the Arm & Hammer baking soda arm. Bodiless, slightly clothed, and fascistically threatening in its promise of purity. For nearly 200 years, the Arm & Hammer arm has stood for a simple message. Buy this baking soda or I'll break your legs. I've been asked, of course, by the Arm & Hammer people to make clear they are no longer making their Army Hammer baking soda, and they have severed all ties with Mr. Hammer. Arm & Hammer also wants me to clarify they're no longer producing their Armand Asante baking soda purely due to low sales. It has nothing to do with the personal life of Armand Asante. It's just the sales did not justify it. Oh, hey guys, the schedule tells me it's time for an episode of Our American Masters on PBS. This week, the story of the Armstrong family, beginning with its patriarch, Louis. Louis Armstrong would revolutionize the world of jazz, but he was the first to admit he couldn't do it without two things: his arms. Yeah, without my arms, I could never lift my trumpet to my mouth, let alone play it. This is an archival recording. So if you were trying to judge which was more necessary, my trumpet or my arms, I'd have to say my arms. I can also use my arms for things like holding the telephone and shaking hands with Ed Sullivan. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say my arms are pretty darn great. That was Louis Armstrong in a conversation with President John F. Kennedy, 1962. Armstrong's legacy of arm achievement would live on in the work of his son, Neil, who would go down in history as the first arms on the moon. That's one small grasp for arms, one giant reach for armkind. Unfortunately, not every Armstrong could be a Neil. Louis Armstrong's other son was a Stretch. It was Stretch Armstrong who revealed the family's horrible secret, that they were genetic mutants with the ability to stretch their arms to inhuman lengths. Stretch parlayed this family taboo into a brief show business career. By the 1990s, he was washed up, forced to work in brownface under the name Dulcine. There he is there. Stretch's son Lance brought even further shame to the family. Here was an Armstrong who turned his back on arms entirely to focus on his legs. For shame, Lance Armstrong. And of course, there have been some other people named Armstrong too. It's a big family. There's a lot of people named Armstrong. And this has been Our American Masters on PBS. Of course, before we use our arms to close the door on arms, let's take a moment to remember some of the arms we lost this year. In part 4, 3, A Farewell to Arms. Did you ever know that you're my 4 limbs? You're everything arms would like to be. Yeah. I can reach higher than an eagle. Yes, I can. Because you are the arms beneath my wings. Oh, yes, you are, girl. You are the arms beneath my wings. Happy Armsgiving, everybody, from all of us at the Flophouse. Guys, well, I hope you learned something.
I have no idea what to think about any of that. Also, there was a fair amount of lag on my end, so it was kind of a fun game to kind of guess what the picture was gonna be in a second.
Oh boy. Well, thank you for calling out the production difficulties in the inimitable Dan McCoy style.
Hey, I can't get my cardigan off either.
Again, another thing you need to call attention to.
I guess
Seems your disrespect for my look at arms is being reacted to by your own arms, which are refusing to cooperate.
Anyway, so tonight we're going to be talking about Over the Top, and I'm in charge of summarizing the movie. So why don't I do that? But I think first I need to get in the zone. Yep. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, there you go. It's like he's flipping the switch.
Okay, I just flipped the switch. Okay. So we have the opening credits. We are informed that not only do we get the Canon Films logo, which I don't know about you guys, always gets me at least partial, if not rock hard. We're informed that it's a Golden Globus production. That's got to get Elliot pumped.
Oh yeah, I have to admit. See, I get it. I have the wrong reaction to the Golden Globus logo, which is excitement. When I know that they made trash, they made garbage.
Yeah, this is not only Golden Globus, this is a Menahem Golan film, right? This is him.
Yes, Menachem Golan directed this movie. Yeah.
All right, I didn't know how to pronounce his name.
That's fine. You're from Illinois. It's okay.
Yeah, it's true. I am.
And all the music by Giorgio Moroder. Now he didn't perform all the music, but it's all written by Giorgio Moroder. So if you ever wanted to hear what Sammy Hagar would sound like singing Giorgio Moroder songs, you're going to hear it in this movie.
This is your one opportunity. I will say this is not Giorgio Moroder's best work. As someone who much of his work as a disco producer, I am a fan of. This is not up to his usual state. This is not up to the standards of the song "Call Me" from American Gigolo, which is an amazing song that he wrote and produced.
Okay, well, I think you should probably say that for final judgments, but we'll get there.
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to really focus on the soundtrack that much in the final judgments.
I can tell you what to focus on. So we're introduced over a montage with the credits. We're introduced to Lincoln Hawk, played by Sylvester Stallone, who's a soft-spoken trucker driving across country. He, as we will learn, is a competitive arm wrestler. He is a absentee father. And something
tells me those two qualities go together in more than just Lincoln Hawk, go together frequently.
Grasping each other in an arm wrestling match. And also he knows that as any trucker does, you always wash your own truck before you wash your own body. So he is driving.
Is that an old saying of theirs?
That's an old saying of theirs, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the truck gets mad. Yeah, if you watch it second.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Then it goes into maximum overdrive.
Rose
Oh.
Goblin face. So he is driving across country to pick up Michael, who is graduating from like a military academy, who's a young boy,
Yes.
and is his son. He has been absentee father to this son. Michael is upset because he was expecting to take a limousine to the airport to go home to visit his sick mother, but instead, his sick mother insists that his father, who has abandoned him for a decade, drive him across the country to meet her after her surgery and get to know each other. Now, this doesn't vibe well with Michael because Michael hates his father. Part of the reason is because Michael's grandfather, played by the great Robert Loggia,
I didn't know you want us to say his name.
Sorry.
Yeah, Robert Loggia. Yeah.
I love it when an old guy has a name like Jason. There's just something very funny to me about that. It's like Bobby or something. All the Jasons and Bobbies in the audience, don't flip out on me.
Yeah, for that burn, I guess.
I do want you to
The
grow
young
up.
guy name.
Get weird on me.
Well,
Okay.
it's kind of like how you're never going to see a President Kevin. It's just not going to happen. I don't think.
This is important though that Robert Loggia has been poisoning the well, because I'll be honest, when I first met this kid in the movie, not in real life, I haven't ever met this, but like,
Oh,
you know,
you should.
the
It's a
medium of
treat.
film.
He's a treat. You missed out. Yeah.
Yeah, but when he like is first on the movie, I'm like, look, I know that he doesn't know his dad, but he is being like so angry right now in a way that I don't actually associate with people who have no relationship with their dad. I associate with people who have had a bad relationship of some kind. Whereas, like, I think with no relationship, a kid that age would probably be very curious about meeting his dad.
To be fair with the kid, he has just been at a military boarding school, and he was led to believe I'm about to go see my mom, who is in the hospital. But instead, like a big trucker who probably smells very sweaty, as he walks through the
He
graduation
took a bath with a hose. We saw
every other parent turns and looks at Sylvester Stallone as if to say, "What is this creature that has wandered onto the school grounds?" I kind of hit the idea that, like, if I was leaving school and someone was like, "Hey, you don't know me, but we're going to be in a truck together for 3 days," I'd be pretty mad. I'd get pretty mad.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's you though, with like just a random person. I just feel like he should
Maybe, but he's also being set up as a rich, snotty kid who has to be taken down a few pegs by his experience with the blue collar world.
Yeah, exactly. He's a know-it-all. He's a snob. He's a jerk. And he hates his father in part because of his grandfather. Robert Loggia plays Jason Cutler, who's just like a general rich guy, right? He lives in Beverly Hills.
That's his name, General Rich Guy.
Yeah. That's his superhero name. Yeah.
The rich guy who employs Terry Funk as a full-time bodyguard. R.I.P. to both Terry Funk and Robert Loggia. Okay. So they have to drive across country in this truck that's plastered with pictures of Lincoln Hawk, aka Sylvester Stallone, and his son and their mom.
All the space that's not taken up by Lincoln Hawk's customized arm exercise equipment, his weights that he has in the cab of the truck so he can work out just the one arm. The other arm, I assume, atrophying away to a shriveled twig of a thing.
I'm sure he comes up with a special exercise.
I guess so. But all the room that's not taken up by that machine, it's pictures of his son plastered all over. Yeah.
And I, of course, moved over so you can see the Lincoln Hawk famous notable quotable in the back, his credo.
Why don't you read it out loud for us, Dan?
The world meets nobody halfway.
A song, a line that is echoed in the theme of the movie "Meet Me Halfway," once again written by Giorgio Moroder. Now they argue a bunch. At one point, Michael tries to run away. That doesn't work. He gets caught. Then they stop for steaks at a truck stop.
Here's why I hate this kid. Is that he goes, "You want a steak?" And he goes, "No." And so he orders chicken for him, and the boy goes, "Eating fried chicken is terrible for you. It'll give you like high cholesterol." And I was like, "This kid, I'm done with this kid. I can't have it. This anti-fried chicken propaganda. I'm just trying to watch a nice movie about a father, a son, a truck, and an arm wrestling competition where grown men bellow at each other like beasts in rut. I do not need this anti-fried chicken talk."
Yeah, especially since he's already part of the military-industrial complex. I could see why
sure.
This is just another nail in his coffin, his child-sized coffin.
It's like, no fried chicken for me. I've got to go create some collateral damage in a far-off country. And I'm like, come on, kid, come on.
So this is the exciting part of the movie because we're finally introduced to the concept of arm wrestling. Now, a modern movie introduced arm wrestling in like a cold open where some
Yes.
guy's wrestling another guy's arm, or like two, like we flash back 200,000 years and two cavemen are arm.
The dictionary definition of arm wrestling.
Yeah. Morgan Freeman, what Webster's defines arm wrestling as, but there is a prophecy that someday a hawk will arise. An arm wrestling hawk? How can such a thing be? Well, sit back, audience, and see.
So Lincoln Hawk is challenged to an arm wrestling match by a fellow named Smasher, who says he doesn't believe anything.
Yeah, very funny line reading, very strange line reading.
There's a few really good ones in this.
Yeah.
So they have an arm wrestling match, and we're introduced. This is the first time we see Lincoln arm wrestling. He is purported to be a great arm wrestler, but the way he arm wrestles, he specifically does a maneuver where he wraps his fingers around their thumb, a maneuver that, as I checked, is illegal in arm wrestling.
Yes, and later, and we'll see later, his opponents in the big competition are like, "Get your fingers off my hand! Get off my hand!" A very valid thing to say. Like incredible. It's like he's like, I'm a champion boxer. My big thing is that I jab someone in the eyes with my fingers. Well, you're not allowed to do that.
Genitals.
What?
Guy
I haven't lost a match.
I haven't lost a match. What I do is I get a dog and I throw it at them first. And while they're dealing with that mad dog, I punch him.
It's like when a guy in a fighting game has a power that just pulls out a gun and shoots his opponent. Like,
That's not fair.
I sneak into their bedroom the night before and I put a poisonous snake in there.
So what I do is I get in drag. I get a job as their children's nanny. Then I start putting little bits of lead into their children's food, poisoning them until the night before the match, when they can't concentrate because their children are in the hospital with lead poisoning. And then it's a mental game. I'm there on the field and they're only halfway there, so I win.
Okay. So Lincoln defeats Smasher. Everybody's happy except for one fellow, a very large man named Bull, who is a champion arm wrestler, and he is going to be the one to beat at the World Arm Wrestling Championship in Vegas. Okay, so we have two things to look forward to: a big match in Vegas. Okay.
So Vegas is the second of the things we're looking forward to.
I would kind of put both of those things together as one thing.
It's one thing.
Villain. We have a villain.
We do other stuff in Vegas other than see the match. Do a little gambling, go to a show. It's a whole weekend.
Yep. Go to the Neon Graveyard. Yeah,
they cut out the scene where Sylvester Stallone, before the match, he goes to see Terry Fator's ventriloquy show, and it's just like, I can't believe those puppets are saying that stuff. That's pretty crazy for a puppet to say. Let me get backstage. I got to meet these puppets. And then when he gets backstage, the puppets obviously are not saying or doing anything. And he's like, "Oh, giving me the cold shoulder, huh? Well, this is outrageous."
He meets the puppets and he's like, "Wait, you power them with an arm? Arms can do so many different things."
"Oh, I was just using this for wrestling, but it turns out I can create as well as destroy."
Okay, so we get a montage. They start to get to know each other a little bit. They like each other. He rips off both of his sleeves of his military jacket, so he looks pretty dope. Hasn't turned into a full battle jacket, but that's fine. They train together. We get a little montage of them training using all parts of the truck to train. But Mike is still pretty shitty, and he's like a snob and a jerk to his dad. It's clearly posturing, but it's fine. So Lincoln teaches.
That's also just having a son. That's just having a son, partly too.
Yeah, leave us a tale.
As the father of two sons, one of whom is 5 and the other 9, the 9-year-old is already entering the phase where he thinks, I am the least cool person on earth, whereas he used to previously think I was the coolest person on earth. The 5-year-old thinks I am the coolest person. The 9-year-old thinks I'm very uncool. And in the car ride today, as I was driving him home from one of the infinite birthday parties I must take my children to every weekend, he said, "Oh, I'd like to see a Flophouse show sometime." And I think, yeah, you can when you're like a teenager, but you're going to think I'm pretty uncool and boring. You're pretty embarrassed because you're going to think my jokes are not funny. And he goes, "Yeah, I think that now." And I was like, "Wow, rough."
Wow. Yeah. Don't let him ask an audience question. Okay.
Oh, no.
This reminds me. Sorry, Look, we've got time for one digression. So our mutual friend
Dan, we've already had like 6.
No, but this is what they come for. This is what they come for.
This movie. We have Masquerade.
We were hanging out with our friend Kurt at the dog park. His family just got a new adorable little dog, and it was a Halloween dog run. So they'd put like a hand on the top of the dog, and they took it off at one point because it was like hard to keep it on, and so like Kurt and I were, of course, doing the classic bit where he put it in his sleeve, and I shook his hand, and I went and I just really relished the Kurt's daughter's reaction of, "You're not funny," and I'm like, even though I am a childless man myself, I know that I'm of dad age because I'm like, nothing could have made me happier than like her being like dismayed by the jokes we were making.
Oh, it's such a pleasurable reaction to get when children hate the jokes that you're telling. They hate it. I presume that he hates being in that truck with his dad because his dad keeps being like, "Hey, we passed the graveyard. People are just dying to get in," and his son is like, "Oh, damn it!
Every
God damn it!
graveyard we go by,
Every single one." "Dad, can I have a tissue?" "Tissue? I hardly even know you. I've asked you for 7 tissues, and you've said it every time, Dad."
Yeah,
Oh,
I have
God.
COVID.
Yeah, he was subject 0. So Lincoln and Mike are By the way, I want to point out Lincoln Hawk, his son Michael would be theoretically Mike Hawk or Mike Hawk. Interesting.
That's a good enough reason to not like your dad, right there.
Thinking
Yeah,
about it, yeah.
I mean, he could go by Michael, but
So he sets Mike up for a arm wrestling bout with some local toughs, a best 2 out of 3, which Michael wins, but not before the local tough says, "If I can't beat you, I'll kill myself."
Sloan tries to collect on. He's like, "You said you were going to do it, so."
Look, a man's word is his bond. So you need help or what?
Yeah,
but this is also
funny.
very thematically like key to the movie because it's a scene where like, this kid's like much bigger than Mike, and like
Scientifically, this kid
round.
should destroy Mike. Mike has no chance.
On paper,
the first round, but then Stallone like basically just gives him rap about like, you gotta want him, and like through the power of wanting it, his bicep grows 3 sizes or whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and then he also cheats to win.
So okay, he goes over the top.
Yeah, he goes over the top. He does a cheating it.
So
Hey, here's the secret. While you're arm wrestling, you got to whisper the name of his dead loved ones one after another to him. It's totally fair. It's totally fair. It's fine, And if it helps, you're sitting at a table, whatever, kick him in the crotch while you're doing it under the table. He's not going to see it coming.
Just tell them that their parents are breaking up.
Here's what you do. Okay, you put the arm wrestling on there, and then before Greedo can beat you in arm wrestling, you shoot him with your blaster under the table.
Rhodians naturally good arm wrestlers, so you got to shoot them first.
Everyone on that planet is a bounty hunter who arm wrestles. That's the thing.
So while they're celebrating this victory, it becomes a Pyrrhic victory because some of Grandpa's goons show up, kidnap Michael, which they're easily dispatched by Lincoln.
After a truck chase, he chases them in his truck.
Yeah.
Chase him in his truck. We got, you got to get some money on the screen there, baby.
Yeah.
They rented a truck. We got to see it do things.
You can't take that away from them.
Yeah.
Like a record salary for this thing, so they got to make him work.
Actually, that's the amazing thing is, considering how much money Stallone was paid for this, what a quiet, small performance he is giving for most of the movie. It is maybe the least acting I've ever seen him do. And he underplays quite a bit in other roles too. But in this one, it's like, there are times when I was like, I could just imagine Malachim being like, "Sly, this time a little louder so the microphones can pick up what you're saying and it can be recorded onto the film a little bit. Okay, take 2." And Sly's like, and they're like, again, can you say louder?
I will say that like he is, like, I don't want to spoil my final judgments, but like this is one of the things that I do like about the movie is I like Stallone in it. He is giving like a smaller performance, but there's something very like sweet about it and patient about it in a way that like I think it unbalances the movie a little bit because you're like, why are you being such a shit to your dad? Your dad seems so nice.
That's the thing. He's so nice, and the movie promises craziness because it ends at an arm wrestling competition. But this is one of the few movies I feel like with Stallone where even though he didn't want to do it and they had to pay him a ton of money, where it's like he is a father of a son, and so he knows what this feels like. And so I feel like he was actually channeling kind of his own experiences in a way he usually doesn't get to do in his movies, because I hate to break it to you guys, he is not a one-man army who was trained by the military to slaughter, and he's also not like a real boxing champion who has a robot butler. And
But he's a demolition man, right?
I hate to break it to you, Stuart. He is not actually a demolition man. No.
Me.
And he is not expendable. He's quite valuable.
Yeah.
Is she a mob boss with a screwball daughter who wants to get
No.
married?
I don't believe so. He is neither in New York nor in Kansas City or wherever he is in that TV show. He's not a mob boss in real life.
Guys, one of the interesting things about his performance here is that right around this time in the movie, Michael asks him, "Why did you abandon us?" And he's like, he gives some like bullshit response, and the kid's like, "That's not an answer." And you know what? We never get an answer. Basically,
No, we don't.
like
we have
never find out why. We just assume like Grandpa was an asshole.
So the assumption
Yeah.
I have is that Grandpa made him feel so inadequate and undeserving of his daughter that eventually it became internalized and it pushed him away. And he's probably one of those guys. I mean, he's a truck driver who's in arm wrestling competitions. He's not a guy who's used to being tied down and dealing with responsibilities in a house, is what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But
he wasn't even an arm wrestler at that point. And he's like, I'll show him. I'll be the best arm wrestler in the world.
and then there should have been a montage of him trying different things to be the best at and failing at them, and then accidentally winning an arm wrestling competition and being like, oh.
There should have been a flashback where Grandpa says some bullshit and he's like, yeah, you couldn't even beat me at arm wrestling. And that like the line that he's like, it sticks in his head. He's like, I'll beat him.
The flashback should have been Robert Loggia beating him at arm wrestling. He goes, all right, well, let you stay as my daughter's husband, but you got to beat me with your arm. And then he wrecks him.
Loggia brings some weight to this character that is fairly thin, but
yes,
like
very much so.
In the line delivery, he's great.
It's also like the arm wrestling, he doesn't seem to have any particular passion for it, because like the first time we see him arm wrestle, like, and he wins the money, like the kid's like, you hustled that guy. I'm like, no, it's the opposite. Like that guy came up and demanded that he arm wrestle you for money. Like that guy set himself up and then had to pay the money. Like it's the opposite.
No, that's what a good hustler is he lets the people hustle themselves,
Yeah,
hey Dan, when you're playing the game, you're not trying to seduce someone, you're letting them seduce themselves into your arms.
That's how I tell everybody, why did you sleep with Elliot? I'm like, I've seduced myself.
Like he didn't do a thing and I just gotta talk myself into it. Yeah.
So gang, they make it to the hospital just in time for Mom to die. Oh, everybody's sad. Michael is angry.
The doctor is like, oh, if only you'd taken a plane to get here and not a truck, you would have seen her.
Michael blames Lincoln for this. He's just lashing out. He's an angry child. And that, luckily, we are gifted with Sylvester Stallone showing up to the funeral with like a top-notch all-black denim fit that like stops the fucking show. Like everybody stops doing what they're doing and just stare at him while he puts the flowers on the grave.
Again, everywhere he goes that is not a roadhouse diner or an arm wrestling competition, people act as if he is the most noticeable, like strangest creature, like the weirdest thing they've ever seen. Like he walked out of a Dr. Seuss book or something like
I don't
that.
know.
Like, they just cannot believe it.
Unbelievable at all. I feel like
every woman wants him, every man wants to be him. Maybe
I guess that's true
as well. So
the women are all like, I wonder if he goes over the top.
Yeah, they got to assume that's what the is. So Michael is staying with Grandpa. Lincoln decides to go over there to try and get his son back. They don't let him in, so of course he drives his truck through the gate, through the statues,
through the front door of the house.
Door. He jumps in there to get his son. It's not happening. The cops show up and arrest him, take him away.
This is a very extreme move for Lincoln Hawk after what has been not that extreme a movie up to this point. There are two moments where Grandpa makes him so mad that he turns into a Stallone character from a different Stallone movie.
So he gets arrested. He's in deep shit. So what they do is they use this leverage as a way to give up custody. But one final thing is that Michael shows up to see him in prison. I'm not sure where this was filmed, but it looks a lot like Alcatraz. Michael goes
possible. I mean, at this point, Alcatraz was closed, but they could have reopened it just for Lincoln Hawk.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I feel like they opened.
I don't think they were saying
things there.
I mean, it's also movie that it's Alcatraz.
I mean, it is certainly not Alcatraz, because it's very rare that someone who has not yet been indicted on charges and was just arrested that night is brought to Alcatraz.
Take him to the Rock.
They're not like he's in Alcatraz. They're like, where do we shoot this thing that isn't
Oh, well, that's possible. That's very possible because they do shoot stuff there.
Yeah, so
They shoot horses, don't they, at Alcatraz?
right here.
I should have
the fact
said
that
they
he
shoot
signs-
horses at Alcatraz, don't they? That's what I should have said.
I got it. The fact that he signs over custody at this point, like, I don't want to, skip too far ahead, but like, like there's a happy ending basically where they like go off together, and I'm like,
Somebody jacks him off.
didn't you? Whoa!
No,
Did you like you signed over custody? That was not addressed.
Dan. By that point, he is on top of the arm wrestling world. He can do whatever he wants. The law, he's like the law has no meaning at that point.
Yeah.
Also, I can't believe signing over custody. He thinks it's better for his son. Maybe it gets him off the charges. When he signs over custody, that's what surprised me. He can no longer eat custard because of the paperwork that he signed.
What are the so at this point, like the lawyer makes a case, but then Michael shows up and he's basically like, what are we gonna do? I'm gonna live in your truck. How do I go to school?
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense, Michael.
It's a good argument. That's true.
And it works on Lincoln because he signs those papers and he leaves town. So he shows up in Vegas. He sells his truck. He bets all the money he gets from his truck sales. Obviously, he didn't sell the hood ornament. That's a hawk. That's his name.
No, he keeps that.
Priceless.
And we should say he bets the money on himself. He put $7,000 on himself, 20-1 odds. So that's a real good payoff if he can win.
If he can win, yeah.
Is it against the rules to bet on yourself in an arm wrestling competition? I don't know. I don't know what kind of rules they have.
Let me ask my most ethical friend, Pete Rose. So
I think he's the New York Times ethicist right now, isn't he? Yeah.
So an additional thing is, in addition to the money he bet on himself, the winner gets a pretty fabulous prize. That's right, a white Volvo semi-truck valued at $250,000. Not a bad payday. And that's
You think any entering, Stu?
he cannot stop. Like, he's in love with his truck. When he's interviewed, he's like, I'm just doing it for the truck. There are scenes where he's like just sitting there looking at the truck prize.
Yeah, and when everyone else is coming in with their entourages, he's just in front of the truck. He's just walking as if he already has that truck. Now we should talk, Stuart, about these interview segments, because these are amazing.
Inexplicable.
Suddenly the movie becomes a fake documentary. Oh, are we going to get there?
Well, I was going to talk about how most likely I feel like Lincoln Hawk probably watched Teton and was like, this lady's got some good ideas about what to do.
Yeah, I understand it.
It makes sense to me.
I'll raise your truck, baby. My son doesn't want to be with me.
And we get all as the arm wrestling championship kicks off, we get to see this huge cast of characters. We get like a weigh-in, and we find out Lincoln Hawk is a trim 190. Not bad.
That's so Lincoln Hawk, considering he's an arm wrestler in this, he's actually. I was surprised about the whole movie that he looks much smaller than Stallone often looks compared to some of his more action hero-y movies, especially compared to the later Rambo movies where he's like a monster. He's like Armadillo Man or something.
He is like Armadillo Man. So the arm wrestling
tournament, or just the Armadillo is the name of the character. But anyway,
like lots of crowd shots, and I believe they actually like they set up an actual world arm wrestling championship and filmed a bunch of footage here.
Yeah.
And so you have like ring girls in little gymnastic suits. You get a big cast of characters. You get like and each guy seems to be representing a different group. Like there's a guy representing the Teamsters.
Yeah, they're from different leagues that they're coming in.
Like and is this where we get the documentary interviews? Because they are very strange. It is a completely different style thing in this movie all of a sudden. And you got like Stallone is like doing stuff like he's like, well, I turned my head around. When I turned my head around, it was like I flip a switch. And then
we got that too?
It sounds like great. This is not a thing that has been established earlier, other than
seeing him do it, but it's that they're hoping that each time he does it, you're like, oh
shit,
that's I wonder why he's doing that, and then it's payoff, or that the audience will hear him say that and be like, oh, I didn't even realize he was doing that every time, but he was. It's like Memento. Now I get it.
Top mode.
It's like the Sixth Sense. But so these interview segments, it is very weird that the movie suddenly goes into this fake documentary style, but it's also, I love these scenes because you're watching the arm wrestlers getting weighed in and they're all going like, rah, rah, rah. They're just shouting and yelling and bellowing. And then you'll cut to an interview segment where they're like, well, when I step up, my competitor and I, we look eye to eye, and I just want it more. And that's why I pushed. And it's just very funny to me that they're always like,
yeah, experience matters a lot. I've been doing a lot of arm wrestling.
And then it'll cut back to that person covered in sweat, just like screaming at nobody and slapping their own face. It's a very funny juxtaposition.
There's one guy who looks like if Gallagher was an arm wrestler. There's a guy with crazy hair, which I know that isn't a good differentiator in this situation. John Grizzly, who shows up to wrestle arm wrestle once with a lit cigar in his mouth, and he just swallows it. He also drinks gasoline at one point, and then has to take a seltzer later, which I'm like, buddy, that's not gonna help. And of course,
what he should have done is he should have drank gasoline and then swallowed that lit cigarette, and you just see his tummy go boom, and then he starts to arm wrestle just to psych him out, you know?
Yeah, a little smoke comes out of his mouth. And of course, we see Bull Hurley, the villain from before, handlebar mustache, big guy, and he is the 5-time champion. Meanwhile, back in Bel Air, Michael, after looking all over.
Now, this is the story all about how his life got turned upside down. I'd like to take a minute to sit right there. I'll tell you how that became the Prince of Arm Wrestling. I was at a military academy when I thought I would go visit my mommy. A guy showed up in his truck, and I said, oh no, this is going to suck. So we got in the truck, and we drove across country.
Matt, that's Matt Carmen, our AV. I didn't know they could do anything.
After searching
all right,
around,
I guess I'll spit some rhymes in my private time, not here. That was a free rhime for you. You don't even have to pay me for it.
for the other ones?
The other ones, I'm going to send you an invoice later. Yeah.
Okay, but it's fair is fair. I agree to those terms. So Michael finds all the opened letters that his father sent him over the years in his mother's personal things. They've all been opened. She kept them. It seems weird that she would.
Well, my assumption was that Robert Loggia was just intercepting them, reading them. Yes, it's a letter showing love from father to son, stowing them away somewhere where he figures no one will look at it ever again.
Destroy them. What a fool. Because what happens is Michael finds them, steals a car, he drives, which makes sense because he learned how to drive in the movie.
And learning how to drive a truck is very similar to learning how to drive a consumer car, just a regular private car.
He drives to an airport, I'm guessing the Burbank airport, maybe LAX, and he takes a short flight to Las Vegas. Meanwhile,
I mean, he could very well go to Burbank. I'm sure that they have regular flights from Burbank to Las Vegas. That's why they advertise Las Vegas shows in the Burbank airport. Michael's walking through. He goes, oh, Terry Fader's still doing a show. I guess I'll pick that up. Goes to Las Vegas, sees that show, sees his father arguing with the puppets backstage. He goes, oh, this is embarrassing. I'm going to go back to Bel Air. Yeah. And this is the story all about how I went back to Bel Air.
We left ourselves. I don't know how this happened.
So Michael gets to the airport in Las Vegas. His grandfather's goons are there, so he uses various things to evade them while there. Meanwhile, Lincoln has managed to make it to the semifinals. He is up against that John Grizzly fellow, and he loses, but we're informed like 100 times twice to be eliminated.
There are so many times.
Lincoln, because everyone else won, lost, and they're gone.
Yeah.
Including directly after the loss happens, the PA system was like, now remember, this is a double elimination final. And
they really don't expect the audience to have any memory at all about this. The only rule that we're ever told about this competition.
So Grandpa Jason Cutler shows up in Las Vegas. He has Lincoln sent to his presidential suite, which is pretty nice. And he offers him.
I should hope so, Stuart. The president stays there when Robert Loggia's not there.
Yeah, and I'm like, why isn't the president there? It's the World Wrestling Arm Wrestling Series.
Actually, if ever a president was going to stop by the World Arm Wrestling Competition, it'd be probably Ronald Reagan, who was president at the time, or possibly George W. Bush. Or what am I talking about? Trump would have been there. He would have been like challenging people. There would have been a staged arm wrestling match where he wins and stuff like that. Yeah, that would have happened. Bill Clinton would have been there. It would happen. Even Obama would probably show up, try to talk somebody's arms off. Yeah, all the presidents would go there.
Clinton's got those saxophone arms too,
Yeah, his arms are saxophones. They were replaced with saxophones.
Right.
Yeah.
So he summons Lincoln to his suite and offers him a top-of-the-line truck and $500,000, which is just kind of interesting because he's already signed over custody.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm not really sure what this is all about.
Well, this is stay out of my life. I don't want. Although at this point, Lincoln has stayed out of his life. It's Michael who was the one who ran off. So yeah, it's true. I don't know what he's getting for his money. Lincoln very shrewdly is making Robert Loggia negotiate against himself.
So Lincoln at this point turns it down. He's angry. He's like, I'm going to win this thing and take my son back. And Robert Loggia's like, you're going back on the deal. And he just goes, yeah. Beats up Terry Funk. And we're like, oh, RIP. And then but he uses that.
I mean, people didn't say that when the movie first was in theaters.
Because we're all dying now.
That's true. I guess you could say RIP
That would
for
be
anybody.
weird. I mean,
we're all
even
going
if-
there.
Even if it was someone who was dead at that point, it would be weird if they went to the movie theater and they were just like R.I.P., R.I.P. in the movie theater.
Yep.
I mean, the whole audience too, especially. Like, I mean, I guess we all agree to talk. Then it's not a social breaking the social contract, but
certainly, if you're at Alamo and they're showing a revival of an old movie and you're just saying RIP for every actor in it who's died, they will come over and tell you to stop. You are bothering it for the other people. Yeah.
Okay, so he uses the anger he built up, the rage, to win a bunch of arm wrestling matches, and he makes it to the finals. He is going to be up against Bull Hurley. It's going to be a one for the ages. Michael has made it there. He sits Lincoln down, gives him a little pep talk, says he wants to live with him, wants to live in this truck, I guess, whatever. He repeats his own bullshit back to him. Pep talk seems to work because he gets in this big arm wrestling match with Bull. Bull has a kind of funny catchphrase. He says that Lincoln has no shitting business in this.
It is so funny. He always says shitting instead of fucking, and it's very funny. It feels so unnatural.
Shitting arm, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, he says, yeah, I'll break your shitting arm, and I didn't realize until you're talking about it now that he's just replacing one expletive with a slightly less dramatic expletive.
With one that will not get him an R rating if he uses it a bunch of times. Yeah,
I'm like,
arm rating?
I mean, the arm he like uses to wipe his butt.
He's saying you're not going to be able to wipe yourself, and you're going to have to either hire someone to wipe you or get a family member to do it.
Wouldn't be your shitting hand in that case. I don't even like. Are you
Depends
wiping
on
your arm?
Forearm to wipe. So Lincoln,
what he does is he takes his whole arm, and he doesn't want to use toilet paper because that would be wasteful. So he wipes his butt onto his arm, then he washes that off with a hose that he also uses to wash his truck.
Elliot, we're doing a virtual live show, so it's visible. Why don't you stand up and demonstrate?
You got it. That's a good idea. Anyway, I'm gonna need some.
So we get it. We're treated to a top-notch arm wrestling match. Stallone makes some really great faces, as does his opponent.
This is I have to say this is a dumb movie. This arm wrestling match is very well done. Like it goes on for just long enough. It feels suspenseful. There are different times where I'm like, this person's going to win and that one's going to lose, and it doesn't feel like unlike the arm wrestling match between the kids earlier, where I was like, there is no shitting way that this kid is shitting strong enough to defeat this other shitting kid. I'm going to use it now. It feels good. It feels good as next to it. Later on, I'm like, oh yeah, if I didn't know this was how a movie and how movies work, I could see either character winning this match at this point.
Luckily, Lincoln wins. He goes slow motion over the top and wins the match.
Wait, this is after they have to strap their arms together, right?
Yeah, they have to strap their arms together.
Because what's funny is that Lincoln, he breaks contact for a minute, and they're like, well, we got to strap your arms together now. But when Burley uses Lincoln's own arm to punch him in the face suddenly right before the match, that's apparently totally kosher and legal. Like that's fine.
Yeah, I think in the goof section they're like, he should have been disqualified. Like, no shit.
I mean, I'm not a sports guy. I don't know the rules to professional arm wrestling.
That's true. That's true. It's like how in baseball it's technically not against the rules for the pitcher to throw shurikens at the batter instead of balls. Yeah.
Nothing in the rule book.
So, the rule book.
Ninjas are allowed.
Gets his son. He gets a trophy. He gets a truck. They rename the truck Hawkins' Son. And then we get, once again, we're gifted with that over the top logo plastered across the screen, and then credits roll as we see a truck driving across the desert. It's pretty great.
Now, Stuart, I want to ask you a question.
Oh, nice.
I'm led to believe that you're a strong man. Now, so Hawk, the next day after doing all of that,
do it. Yep. Give it.
Doing
Show us both of them.
all the arm wrestling. What do you think his arm feels like the next day?
It's fucking annihilated. Like all, like I would imagine his whole elbow is bruised and fucked up, and like
Just from having his elbow against the table, and they have little pillow
Probably his
cushions.
joints
They just have
are.
it. Oh yeah, his shoulders all bad. Yeah,
he's
I mean, you do see him getting massaged and his elbow kind of like buffed during one of the matches.
And he wears like a towel around his elbow to keep that thing warm and loose, I guess.
Yeah. But it's like, but yeah, their arms
doing most of the driving for the next day
and wiping. To be honest, he's not going to be able to do that for himself anyway. So I guess Bull got what he wanted a little bit.
In the end, his shitting arm was taken out of commission.
Yeah.
We should do our final judgments whether this is a good bad movie, a bad movie, or a movie kind of liked. My reaction to this was like, I was surprised by how much family drama there is in this movie versus arm wrestling, and I can only imagine that the way it went was like, Golan was like, I got this idea for an arm wrestling movie, people are gonna love it, it's gonna be like Rocky, we're gonna like make people care about this fight because they're gonna know you as a person. And then once they started writing it, they're like, there's very little meat on the bone of arm wrestling. Like, that's not really a cinematic thing, unlike boxing, the most cinematic sport. There's not really a lot to the arm wrestling.
The matches are over quickly. They're over very fast.
So then the weight like went really far in the direction of just like family drama, which is most of the movie, really. But
well, it's also it's very funny because it's like, I think part of that is, I mean, this movie in a lot of ways is a rip off the movie The Champ, which was made from the 30s. They did a remake in the 70s where it's about a boxer or wrestler. I can't remember. I can't remember.
I remember mentioning that movie to my wife a bunch, and she's definitely never seen it.
What, The Champ?
Yeah.
And but it's a similar thing. But also, this movie the screenplay was originally by Sterling Silliphant, who had already won an Academy Award for In the Heat of the Night. So like, I have to assume Golan early on was not like, it's going to be all arm wrestling action, nothing but arms on arms, kabam, kabam, kabam. Like, they were going for something more dramatic. Yeah.
So Dan, what was your rating?
Oh, I think you know what, this isn't, I wouldn't say I kind of like it, because honestly my attention starts to drift towards as the movie goes on. I do think that it is, like, for me, like a good bad movie, just to see the idea of like all these weird elements being tossed in the pot of like, we're gonna make a movie about an arm wrestling truck driver, but it's also about, a dad and son reconnecting, and there's some like silly fun stuff in that. So like, good bad, it's not the most funny good bad that you can see, but I think that if I saw it with a bunch of people, I would enjoy it. That's my thing.
So guys, not to just to be real for a second, I had a little
dangerous.
Yeah, well, hey, lock me up. I had a pretty bad mental health week, and the thing that kind of helped get me through it was watching this dumb movie about arm wrestling truck driver and getting to talk about it with you guys. So in a way, similar to their relationship in the movie, I think it kind of helped. Surprising. Yeah. So I'm gonna say it's a good bad movie.
Okay.
I'm going to say, I agree it's not a funny good bad movie, but it is a good bad movie. But in some ways, this is a movie I kind of like. I think it is not a good movie, but certainly watching it, I was like, this is it is more of a relatable drama than you would expect from the poster, for instance, or anything like that. And when there are brief snatches of action, they are ludicrous. And then you get the arm wrestling stuff at the end. I genuinely, like I said, that last arm wrestling match I really like. But until then, the arm wrestling matches before then are ridiculous. And it's just huge, sweaty guys screaming at each other. And I find that more entertaining than I thought I did. So yeah, I'm going to say good, bad / movie I kind of like. Certainly the most I've enjoyed any of the movies we watched for FlopTV. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We watch Cool World, idiot.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I enjoyed Beastmaster 2 the most, but maybe we'll
actually, Beastmaster 2.
Maybe we'll do a roundup at the end of the season about.
You know what? You're right. I hate it. It's terrible. Yeah.
What do we do next, guys?
Well, I realized we didn't check in with our friends the Cassettis for the final judgments, but you know what? that'll make it all the sweeter when we do it next month. But we do have an animation that we should run for questions.
Who dares question the all-knowing Flophouse House Cat? Ignore those guys down there. Ask your questions and get out of here.
Seriously, folks, we do not have all night. Very well done. It's question time, everybody. Questions, questions. Well, this is a questions all about how we watched a movie.
No, we don't have time for that.
You're right, we don't. It's getting late. Okay, guys, here's the first question. This is from Larry. What is the worst movie with the best cast that you've seen?
Worst movie with the best
I
cast.
think I might say possibly the movie Skidoo, which has Jackie Gleason and Groucho Marx in it, and they never have a scene together. And Harry Nilsson is in it. There's a lot of fun people in it. Carol Channing is in it, and it is a terrible movie. It's bad in almost every way, but it's got a really fun cast. There's the makings of a good kind of 60s crazy comedy there, but they just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
We just watched Amsterdam. That cast is wild, and that was terrible.
You're right. Oh, you know what? Forget it. That's a better answer. Wow. What an amazing cast that has, and it is everything about it is awful. Yeah.
I know that there's a better answer than
you know what? I'm gonna throw Babylon on there too. Babylon, right there.
Whoa! Ooh. You threw me off so hard. I'm just so angry at you, Elliot. I know that there's a better one that is just on the tip of my brain, but I can't access it. So I'm going to say, in that vein of like wacky 60s comedies, or like not a terrible movie, but not as funny as it should be. It's a Mad Man World, and also a genuinely terrible movie that is not funny at all, Casino Royale. Both of them have like great casts. Yeah.
You're talking about the 60s Casino Royale, not the Daniel Craig Casino Royale, which is an amazing movie. But
no, that one's great. I'm talking about the one with like Peter Sellers and David Niven and
and Orson Welles and I will say the It's a Mad Men World. If you watch that in a movie theater with an audience, is great. But if you watch it at home, it doesn't quite work the same way. But I'll say that. Okay, guys, here's a serious question. This is from Sarah Kate. She says, my friend is constantly confusing this movie with No Holds Barred, which also makes them confuse Hulk Hogan and Sylvester Stallone. Do you know anyone who regularly makes a movie-related error that makes you want to yell?
While I'm thinking about this, or while the others are thinking about it, I'll vamp a little by saying No Holds Barred, I would posit as the superior dumb movie about
it certainly delivers on dumb quite a bit.
It's a lot more speedy and fun and weird than this one.
Dude shits his pants.
that is a nutty movie, but
I'll say some people, they can't tell the difference between Sabotage and Saboteur. I get it. They're both Alfred Hitchcock movies. They're very different. Sabotage was made in England. Saboteur was made in America. Come on, Sylvia Sidney is in Sabotage. She's not in Saboteur. Come on. And I know that, yes, Sabotage is based on the novel The Secret Agent, and there's a different Hitchcock movie called The Secret Agent that is not based on that novel. It's instead based on something else. But come on, how confusing is it? Come on, everybody. So do you guys think I'm ready to run for president with that as my platform?
Sure.
It really speaks to the average American experience, right?
I have one that's even less significant and more like nitpicky. I get annoyed when people say the Royal Tannenbaums, like the song "Oh Tannenbaum," referring to Christmas tree. Obviously, it's meant to evoke Tannenbaum, but the film is titled The Royal Tenenbaums.
Dan is getting frustrated at someone else's pronunciation of a vowel before the letter N and after the letter T.
But that's
surely
thing.
has the pot ever called a kettle black as strongly as in this scenario?
My vowel sounds.
Dan, you're in a glass house. Stop throwing those stones around.
People who are saying Tannenbaums just don't know what the word is.
No, but Dan, the thing is, it was the Royal Tenenbaums until they changed it.
Yeah, at Ellis Island.
Okay. I was thinking more of a Berenstain Bears type thing. Yeah. What about you, Stu?
I don't really have one. I'm pretty chill and laid back when it comes to movie stuff, guys.
I mean, anyone who thinks that a character in a movie ripped his own ding dong off when he clearly did not, is, you can't cast dispersions.
If
Can't cast stones.
if somebody did that, I would hate them.
That person is a fool.
So this is a question from Hunter. If you could greenlight a movie about any sport that doesn't seem like enough to hang a feature film on, which sport would it be? For me, Kai-Lai, gotta be Kai-Lai. Those curved paddles, you're in a tiny little room. It's just, it's a sport that is not hugely popular in the United States. You got to make a movie about it.
This may be like too much. It may seem like too much of a go-to like joke answer, but the thing is, like, I find this sport honestly fascinating when I see it on TV, curling, because you have both who they've got different names. One of them sweeps, one of them does.
Let's call them the stone thrower and the ice sweeper. Let's call them that.
Yeah, there's got to be some Canadians in there. As
someone who has tried curling, it's so incredibly difficult. It's super fun, but it's very difficult. And so, I think you could really get a lot of. And there's the hot shot and the new kid, is like, or maybe it's the first lady on an all-male curling team, and they're like, you should sweep in the kitchen, not sweep on the ice.
Jill Biden is going to be on a curling team.
Yes, it's first lady Dr. Jill Biden who's on a curling team. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I was going to say something like sumo wrestling, but I bet there's a lot of really good Japanese sumo wrestling.
Yeah,
probably.
I just feel like like sumo wrestling requires like a big person, like just a big, strong person, and those don't traditionally actors aren't like that.
Yeah,
like that. That's like competitive size person.
It does make it hard. It limits the number of roles that you can essay when you are this size and general build of a sumo wrestler. Yeah, of course. It's hard to play Vronsky and Anna Karenina when you have that body shape.
Challenge accepted.
Maybe Anna Karinsuma.
That's you gotta gain that weight and play that part.
Okay. We'll see. This is a question from Adam. What is the best canon film?
Oh, I have to look up a list. Hold on. This is going to be fascinating.
This is going to be great. And I, of course, will say, I think it is probably Death Trap, starring Diane Cannon.
Pretty good.
Pretty good movie and a good joke. I can't
Okay, the math is clear. Can't argue with math.
Canon group films. Stuart, do you have one?
Man, I don't know. I'm going to say all of them.
I will say that's another, the Canon logo, again, it comes up in it before a movie and it makes me excited for what I'm about to see, even though, again, I know they're all bad pretty much. That's not all true. They do have some movies that are good, but they're mostly all bad.
Do they do Cobra?
Oh, maybe.
That's
I don't fun. They did do Cobra. That's right.
That's a more fun.
That was a Golden Globus production. Yeah.
Movie like that one's. And they did the Breaking movies, right? That's them.
Yes. Well, I can never remember which are Golden Globus productions and which are Canon films. It's all part of the same world. Oh, I forgot they did the movie Joe, starring Peter Boyle, which is a pretty terrifying movie. There's a bunch of good ones.
I'll look it up afterwards.
Yeah, when it's not
sure.
The listeners.
Yeah. And so if the Flophouse crew raced across the country in trucks, this is a question from Vince, who would win? Which of us would win a truck race? Not me. I can't reach the pedals. What about you guys?
I'm going to put it to Stuart because I think I would be too cautious a driver to win that race.
Yeah. I would crush these guys. I'm used to driving a Jeep. That is my vehicle of choice. And
famously the speediest of vehicles.
Truck race, dude.
With the most comfortable back seat.
That's true.
I intentionally bought the vehicle that is least comfortable so that Dan and Elliott will not want to ride with me.
Mission accomplished. Okay, so here's a question from Jared. If you could arm wrestle any character from a movie, who would it be? And guys, before you do it, I think we should all not do the tasteless joke of naming a character with no arms.
Thank you.
Okay.
And guys, before you say it, Steve Urkel is not from movies. He's from a TV show.
But he's got the potential for movies.
Yeah, that's they dropped the ball, I think.
They did. They were like, should we make a Steve Urkel movie or a Steve Urkel breakfast cereal? and they went with breakfast cereal, and that was a mistake. They shouldn't have done that.
I'm trying to think of like who I don't like and is weak, but it's
Well, Dan, you hate weakness, right? It disgusts you. So that's
no, I just want to win. It's not like I
Yeah.
want to punish the weakness. I want to punish the being terrible in other ways.
I think I'd like to arm wrestle the
wanna-
Alistair Sim Ebenezer Scrooge because he deserves it. That guy's a jerk. I would arm wrestle him before the night the ghosts show up, just because that he learns his lesson after the ghosts show up. You know.
I
It'd be
would
like
probably arm wrestle Freddy Krueger because I want to rip that glove off and wear him.
I mean, you don't want to arm wrestle that hand, right? He's all cutting you up with it.
I'm pretty good at taking gloves off of people's hands.
Can it be like
You can't go over the top when his fingers have blades all over them.
As we saw in the movie, Stallone makes that kid take a glove off. So I bet the referee would make him remove his glove.
Oh, fair.
Underneath the glove is not as scary. That's like normal looking.
No, but it's a dream. So underneath his glove, his fingers are worms or something like that, and you're like,
yeah. Can it be like flirty arm wrestling? Can I like?
Sure. I mean, it's look. The
Winona
question doesn't
Ryder
say no.
and like one of her, like whatever age appropriate role is current.
Cool. Yeah. You can do that.
Sure. Okay. So not mermaids.
Yeah, no, I would have crushed her though.
That's yeah. She would have had no chance. Yeah.
I would have taken down Winona Ryder and mermaids.
Okay, guys. Here's our last question of the night. Let's go with it. It's from Maurice. What do you think is the most common 80s hero name? So I think let's twist this question a little bit. What's the hero name that most said 80s to you? Lincoln Hawk is a pretty strong contender.
Fucking dope.
It's very strong. Yeah.
Dutch, Matrix, John Matrix.
Come out in the 90s.
John Matrix. I mean, it's from an 80s movie, so it says 80s to me. But although I guess, there's a certain type of name where they're like, do we care that a human being would never have this name? No, we don't. It sounds cool.
I feel like Jack or Max are both they're both all-star action movie hero names.
Yeah.
Oh, it has to be action movie heroes. I was like, what's an 80s hero name?
A
Ferris?
Kramer v. Kramer. Yeah,
The name
Cobretti.
Tom Cruise in Risky Business. Is that a name?
Oh, this is Tom, my friend Tom CIR Business. What do the initials stand for? Don't ask.
80s hero name, what? Hi McDonough? Yeah, that's a name.
That's an 80s hero, sure. Yeah. Predator.
Mm-hmm. I think you have a skewed perception of that movie, but that's okay.
I guess. Yeah, well, who's the hero and who's the villain? Who's to say? Guys, is it too late for me to put together a mashup of Predator and Pret-a-Porter and put that up on YouTube and become an internet sensation?
Mm-hmm. What about you can have a value meal at Pret a Manger.
Oh, now I've got to do it. So there's a certain type of 80s. I feel like I wish more were coming to mind at the moment. But like Ferris Bueller strikes me as a name like that, as an 80s movie name where it's like, again, like, how does this name doesn't exist. There's no, who's naming their kid Ferris? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to think it's because they're made out of metal.
Do you think looking back, I'm kind of surprised there weren't more kids named Ferris after that.
Have you seen that movie? He is a jerk.
He's just trying to give his friend a good day and losing him up, man.
I guess that's true. I mean, he does destroy a priceless car and destroys a priceless ethnic holiday, in parade.
St. Patrick's Day, destroy it. It's fine. I
Yeah.
speak as a
Yes.
person.
I don't think it's St. Patrick's Day. I thought it was some kind of German Day celebration.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's like
Because they're all the ladies are all in kind of Oktoberfest style German.
Yeah, no, you're right.
German
Well, at least the thing he's on, the float. Yeah.
Yeah. And when they go to the Art Institute and they're looking at that Seurat painting, and that as soon as the cameras were off, they decided they could do better, and they were putting dots all over that thing. This kid, he's breaking all the rules. It's not Abe Froman shows up at that restaurant. Oh, I'll have lunch at my favorite restaurant. Being the sausage king of Chicago is hard, but what makes it worthwhile is lunch with friends. I finally worked to a place after working for so many years, barely seeing my family, that I can make time. I can make time to just relax and have a good lunch with friends. I'll have my regular table. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Froman, you came and had lunch already. We put it on your tab. What? He has a heart attack.
Now
dies instantly.
you're positing that in this version, Abe Froman is an existing Sausage King of Chicago. He's not someone.
He gets
that
the
was
name
made
off the
up
list, doesn't he?
by-
He gets the name off
Oh,
of the
that's true. He
reservation
does get
list.
the
Yeah,
name.
this is a real. And he goes.
But he gets
Yeah.
gets the occupation correct. The occupation, of course,
Well, because
being
well, he says
Sausage King.
well, because he says to the maitre d', "I'm Abe Froman," and he goes, "You're Abe Froman, the sausage king of Chicago." He goes, "Yes, I am." And so you have to assume that Abe Froman showed up
Oh,
later.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. And
I forgot that the maitre d' is the one who
gives them that
defines
information.
what
That's
Abe
because Ferris is
Froman
doing his mind again. Ferris has seduced him without seducing him, and he's giving up
sure.
information.
Right,
And so,
do you think on the set of Time Cop, Mia Sara and Jean-Claude Van Damme talked about filming Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
you have to assume so. You have to assume so. I'm glad you mentioned Time Cop, because my other alternative for what happened when Abe Froman showed up is they say, "Oh, Mr. Froman, you've already been here for lunch." And he goes, "What? I've got to kill my looper." And then he just left on a global hunt for his own self.
Well, on that sort of disquieting note, we should close up the question bag, and we should just say before we go, what have we learned from Over the Top? I'm gonna, what I will say is, so there's the quote, "The world meets nobody halfway."
Yeah,
But
that's
the
what you meant.
song-
That's what you learned.
But the song is all about meeting you halfway. And I prefer to think that that is not a mistake, that the frisson of the movie is the different viewpoints. Like, he says that the world doesn't meet you halfway, but the song suggests that maybe as people, we must meet each other halfway. It's like when I saw Sofia Coppola's Priscilla just recently, and all through the movie, Elvis is treated as, sort of a monstrous figure, although, in ways that at the time were ignored. But at the end, when she's leaving,
because he was a famous person.
because he was Elvis. But then at the end, as she's leaving, they play "I Will Always Love You," which is also true in a certain way. So the frisson is what creates great art.
Okay, interesting. So it's not that he's learned the lesson that sometimes you do have to meet someone halfway. It's instead that
sometimes it's
the
like the
contradiction.
audience has to decide.
You're
which-
saying Over the Top contradicts itself, but that's because it contains multitudes.
Mhm.
As was written by Over the Top's original screenwriter, Walt Whitman. That's why it says "story by Walt Whitman."
Mhm.
Yeah, his version had way more arm wrestling though.
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh, very much so. He was very into it. Dan, I learned real men aren't afraid to cry when they're arm wrestling.
Mhm.
That when you're arm wrestling, you can scream, you can cry, you can poop yourself. It's like giving birth for men is arm wrestling.
That's the advertisement. They say arm wrestling. It's like giving birth for men.
And Stu, what did you learn?
I'm going to say that what I learned was no matter how badly you fuck up in life, no matter what mistakes you make, you can overcome it all if you're strong enough.
Like physically strong enough.
Physically strong enough, yeah.
Nice.
Not emotionally. I haven't figured that part out.
It is very funny that at the end of the movie, Robert Loggia is still rich, still has the papers that give him custody. But as soon as he wins the arm wrestling competition, Robert Loggia has this look on his face like, "Well, I guess it's over for me." And the next scene, I guess, would be him walking into the Salton Sea, never to appear again because he's been defeated.
Yeah. Guys, before we sign off, I want to say the next show is going to be about Ballistic, X versus Sever. I believe Stuart has the presentation for that one. And then the last show of the Flophouse season will be Nuki, for which I will be closing out the season with a presentation. If you want to see those and you don't have a season pass and you want to see the whole season, you can still do that. If you get a season pass, you can watch everything. But thank you for being at this show. Thank you for joining us in our dissection of Over the Top. As Elliot says, possibly the finest arm wrestling movie there is.
Show me a better one.
Yeah.
You know what? When you're right, you're right. For the Flophouse, I've been Dan McCoy.
I've been Stuart Wellington.
I've been Elliot Kalin. See ya at the next first Saturday of the month next month.
Bye.